traits of people, and he uses them in his acting. You know, Charles really putting him down. He said, that guy, he couldn't take you, Bob. I think he said he left, but he yelled out something stupid, said something, then he left. But he was an idiot, and he couldn't take it. So there was one right-winger. Now, if there was a gang, we couldn't do it with a gang. First of all, the right-wingers wouldn't show up. They don't give a fuck about that, what he offered. So I was the right-winger who showed up and infiltrated the left liberal thing, right? But in a way that they couldn't categorize as a right-winger. Because the right-winger didn't understand me and took off. He didn't see me as one of his kind.
Right. Not having a bias and having comprehensive awareness.
You, me? You meaning you?
You.
Oh, me.
Anybody. Yeah. You can easily agree with the point of view of the person, and that right there puts them at ease because they don't have a fight on their hands anymore. Yeah. Then you can lay something in addition. You can say something in addition to what they already believe.
Get back to the original motive. They're there, which is to be challenged and stimulated. They just get lost in it and then start taking it personally. And then I say, no, you don't have to take it personally because I don't make a personal issue out of it. And then we go back to the agenda again of stimulating them.
Right.
So I don't predict. That's why he's doing the radio show. We never knew what we were going to do. Mike just knew. We'd open the mic. He'd start showing. Bob would start talking. So I would start doing something. Then we get calls, and the xenochrony would be incredible. Just a whole. In retrospect, you'd look back at the.
What's xenocracy?
That's strange synchronization. I would say it's synchronization that includes non-synchronization. Includes chaos, but it's not just chaos. There's a unity underlying it.
I thought we already established there is no chaos.
That's right, because the underlying synchrony swallows the surface chaos.
The appearance of chaos.
Because it's strange synchronization. Synchronization means harmony, matching. But
strange as in strange attractor.
Right, it's an attractor thing, but the attracting is neither the harmony nor the dissonance. It's a combination of dissonance and consonance. But it's neither. It's an ongoing attentiveness or something that holds the thing together. I act it out, as Anna said. I act out. I do a performance, which includes the reaction of the audience and me orchestrating it as a musical conductor, dealing with the unforeseen effects of the improvisation. And in the end, there's a kind of order. What? Synthesis, yeah. And a good way to say that it's not your normal form of synthesis that you can exploit commercially or propagandistically, you come up with a new word, xenochrony, strange fucking synthesis. You know what I mean? And that's what Frank did. His albums are so puny compared to the amount of work he did every night playing his concerts, thousands of concerts, where they had a mystery word, they improvised, they changed the music. You can't get Frank's actual music performances on tape. He taped a lot of them, but that's an approximation of the live thing that he created every night. You know what I'm saying? And the tapes, he hasn't released any albums yet. All the albums are the miles and miles of concerts that he taped. Because that's the live stuff he did every night. And then you wouldn't want to hear all the repeats of the songs.
Well, he probably considered that to be the place where he was working out his...
Yeah, that was his
working out, and then he would put it on vinyl when he felt that he had...
Which was a memo. The vinyl was just a memo to the people to keep the visual space money going. And that's why his albums, they're good, but for a lot of people, they like
it's like a lot of these stand-up comics. They go around, they play these small clubs, they work their routines. Then when they're ready, they hit HBO.
Yeah. But see, if they think that's
by
big,
the time they've hit HBO, it's not spontaneous anymore.
Right.
They've got it locked down.
Yeah. So then they market themselves, and then they become successful and end up like Dan Aykroyd, or sort of a bland guy doing stupid movies, working for the pig. So the thing is that Frank never wanted to get HBO. The point wasn't to get it down so that you could be HBO and then be marketed on a big level. The thing was to always sabotage the effort to go that way.
He wanted to stay alive.
He wanted to stay alive, and to do that, he had to be really alive and have the newest technologies to keep the life forms going. So that's how you survive and keep in touch with the present. So Marshall has all the way through Finnegan's through Take Today. To be successful is a failure. To be a failure is successful in this situation. Like a Robin Williams, you hear young kids saying that guy's an asshole. If you become a certain level of success, you become Kraft cheese, and you'll bug the alive kids of the next generation because you just become too much of a habit or too recognizable thing. So So how, it's not going towards HBO. I would say Zappa's albums, his own albums, which he luckily could market, were were memos to the population, so he could get some money to continue doing what he was really doing. The albums were nowhere near what he was really doing. Whereas a comedian going for HBO and wanting to get there, he believes that he's really doing something that'll lead to that, something that he thinks would present himself. Frank never thought that he was presenting himself in the albums. They were just fucking obligatory homework assignments he had to hand in to the teacher so he could pay his rent. You got that, Jerry?
Yeah, that was good.
That's the way it is. And that's why Dweezil says, ultimately, Frank was the only guy who really meant it when he said he does music for himself.
Yeah.
Not most everybody else really is thinking economically, and until they make it, they're doing it for themselves. Then they make it, and then they merge with the audience and become dead. They merge with their
He's
idea.
like the guy sitting in the cave doing Kriya Yoga.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if there's an audience or not.
Yeah. And I mean, Tony Palmer, who did 200 Motels, his description of Frank before he got mad at Frank, and when they were editing 200 Motels, was he was like a yogi to him. He just said the concentration, the discipline, and that was.
But there's something he was distorting something because he developed that prostate cancer.
Right. He was too much into virtual reality. He didn't have access to the anthropomorphic physical enough. He really was the homeopathic cliche probe side, the technological. He was techno man, the mother of invention. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
He never connected with Bob and Connie because he didn't have, and this is what Dave Wally's right about, he never had the personal way to relate on the anthropomorphic level. And that's why he did that the last year of his life. He quickly did a little anthropomorphic thing and had his little conversations with people and tried to have a little community. It was a little late, but he sort of flipped into that. Tried to cram that in the last year because he knew he was going to be dead soon. So he wasn't complete. That's why he's a John the Baptist of Bob and Connie. You know, he's not a Bob and Connie, but he was great entertainment for Bob and Connie for 30 years leading up to. So Bob and Connie helped them survive. You know what I mean? Remember I saying? I think even Bob needs an audio enema. You know, even though it was virtual. So.
But each environment is analogical mirror.
Yeah.
And then
and an analogical
Finnegan's Wake is the premier analogical mirror.
Right. Remember, an analogical mirror is A is to B as C is to D. It's a ratio among proportions. It's proportions of ratios among proportions. You have to read Marshall's early literary criticism where he spells that out. That's the Thomistic philosophy. And it's the analogy of being. Being as an analogical. It doesn't mean that being isn't. It doesn't mean that non-being is non-being or is being. It's something. It's in the tactile interval. Thomism is the philosophy of the tactile interval, which is that consciousness mirrors itself, but both parts of the mirror are real. Both sides of the image of the mirror are real, and it depends on another mirror that comes in that changes the relationship between you and the mirror. So it's A is to B as C is to D.
That's a retrieval or reflection of matter antimatter.
Yeah.
In science fiction, you have these ideas of
that
you've got a double.
But they always made it a double. They didn't get the tetrad level. Marshall understood the ratio of proportions among proportions. That's the phrase. The ratio of proportions. The double mirror was one proportion, but he knew that becomes a figure when you have another proportion, two things underneath. So 2 and 2 makes 4. So the fourfold of the structure of consciousness is fourfold, at least, and that's the analogical mirror. It's very hard. You have to really think about it.
Yeah.
You have to meditate on it and really work it out. But the point is, no one's ever heard it said. I'm telling you the problem. You never heard it said this way. So now you know the problem. Now you got to go away and figure it out. You know what I mean? And you do it by reading McLuhan stuff. You know.
Something I noticed when I was looking at your chart in Orphic was that
the first chart.
Yeah, you got AL. You got HCE on one side, ALP on the other, and you have
the children.
Shem and Sean
and Izzy are the children.
And Izzy.
Yeah, they're the extensions.
But in the last, as you go
down,
you hit Bob. There's no corresponding for ALP.
Right.
So I'm assuming that HCE and ALP merged at that point.
Right. That's Bob and Connie.
So now
that's
you have
the line. You have that. You see, isn't it Bob down? Bob is down the bottom line, but the ground, the LP is this line.
Right.
You know, that's the merging.
Yeah.
That's the you can't say what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But see that because you have 5 elements until HLP and
HLP.
Yeah, that's the merger.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you meant that? Okay.
When you have the merger there, then now you got the tetrad because you got HLP and then you got Shem, Shan, and Izzy.
Yeah.
Now, how do they relate, or do they, to the four Bobs?
They definitely relate. But one way to look at the second chart, see, there's 5 charts. Those 2 there.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2, then the metamorphesi, 1840 to 2020. You know, those ones. That's 3, and then 4 and 5 are
Orphic and solar.
Orphic and solar, right? So I'm talking the 5th chart, solar. So on that, you have.
When I saw the 5th chart, that's when I came up with my own version of.
I don't even know if he knows.
Oh
what
yeah,
he's talking
I
about.
don't know if Bob knows what he's talking.
Which is the takeoff on the rap thing now, because we go, you know what I'm saying? And Kyle says, I don't even know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And Bob's going around all day going, do I know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Who doesn't know who's saying
And
what?
then,
You
and
know
then
what I
who
mean?
comes up at the bench? You should have said your rap to him and then go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was actually tempted to do that, but it wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
They were looking for you to recognize them as black. See, that's the point. You're not allowed to say what they are, even though we're operating on the principles that they're them and we're not them. See, that's a tricky challenge. So let's go back to this point. Remember, the decade. It's the view from the decade dancer. It's the hexad, which is 6. You know, monad, dyad, triad, tetrad, pentad, and then the chart itself is the view from the hexad. It's a hex advertisement. You know the thing at the bottom. But it's the decade dance. It's just 6, 7, 8, 9 are left out. You know, they can be considered part of hexad. But it's the view from 10. And remember, as I say in the solar essay, the decade dancer uses the monad, tetrad, dyad, all of them, with no numerical priority. She's not saying tetrad is more complex than monad. Monad is equal to tetrad from the decade position. All right. So
the many and the one are the same.
Okay. There's some kind of overcoming the paradox that the philosophers were working on for 3,000 years. And you notice I have monad. McLuhan is triad. Then Thompson is dyad. Then Croker is pentad. It's out of order. That's on purpose to show you that it's a ratio of ratios among ratio of proportions among proportions. Now the ratios are McLuhan and LaRouche. No, it's LaRouche, McLuhan. It ends with McLuhan, 1967. But then you have the mirror after image, Thompson and Croker. So there's a dyadic relationship within the chart. Or you can make it a triadic. You can start really...
Bob's the mirror relation to Joyce.
Yeah. And remember, it's right Eloy 2 lofty, 4, and then Bob. And Bob is the pentad level, so the 4, LaRouche, McLuhan, Thompson, and Croker are right Eloy 2 and lofty, you know, on the side. Or Orphic Baroque spirals of them. So that Bob is the 5th. Bob is Rumpelstiltskin at the bottom. So Bob, Dean, those 4 Bobs can be altered in any way you want to. Once you know that I'm working with a ratio of proportion among proportions. You know what I'm saying? So I can be on the bench raving about LaRouche. Even though he, in the melody sense, a line of linear goal point, which this is a page, so you're going to have a visual perspective because I've chosen the medium of a chart. So in the end, the eye wins, and I'm showing a linear order that's there. But you start looking, it's chaos on the surface of where's the order, even though it implies it. But there is an order finally. And so I can be LaRouche, you know, down at the thing there. But if you actually look at the chart, LaRouche is way back there. You know what I mean? He's not.
He's disappeared too.
Yeah, he's long. I mean, if you look at the order, you should be looking into Croker. That's the closest to Rumpelstiltskin, you know. It's a little more recent dates, 72 to 77, right? So that's how I answer your question. Yeah, he's satellite squared. Because Marshall was satellite. And then you have a replay in the after image phase from 67 to 77, so it's satellite squared. So Croker is, you know, totally McLuhan, but from a negative land point of view. Croker says that McLuhan's idea that media are extensions of man is ridiculous. Croker says the media are the humiliations of man. not the extensions. Check about page 142 in Data Trash.
Then why did they call him the McLuhan, the new McLuhan? If he's...
Well, they call him the McLuhan of the 90s, and we all know the cliche is the 90s are the 60s upside down. It's a reverse image, and it's all a replay of the 70s, because basically the 90s are the 70s kids looking back at themselves, right? You got right there, fuck that 70s shit, you know what I mean? That's the point. The 90s are the 70s, always 20 years sort of apart. In the 70s, they did the 50s. In the 80s, they did the 60s. In the 90s, you do the 70s. But those are all decadal dances, which are just marketed by the military operation out of Hollywood.
That's
okay?
great.
And the real point is none of that is, there ain't no 90s. It all ended in 1990. You know what I mean? The year 25,463 AD ended in 1990. There's no time after that. So that's why as we go through the 90s, these homeopathic retrievals wind down faster. You know, the world ends in nostalgia, as Zappa says. Then you gradually see the only fucking consciousness left is Bob and Condy. See, it starts to become obvious. By 1998, it's going to be fucking incredible. On July 5th, 1998, when Bob's supposed to happen, you know, you're going to see Bob and Connie all over the fucking place. You know, Stang's going to go crazy. And I told Merides that, and he actually fucking started to believe it. That was
what are you gonna go crazy? Because you're saying you don't want it.
I went crazy. That's the point. Bob went crazy in '77, and then he and Connie, would they make it out of the whatever you want to call that dark tunnel from '77 to '92? And they made it out. That's a great cause of celebration. Bob recovered his sanity.
Oh, you recovered it.
Whatever you want to call it.
Right.
The point is, I'm not crazy. I got to the point.
But once you get that
I never
fame
was
that you
crazy.
don't
Was the great breakthrough.
Right. But when you get that fame that you're trying to avoid.
Well, I'm not saying there'll be any fame.
Well, you said
maybe.
We'll be all over the place.
Right.
What's
It'll
the
be
difference
people like
between
Scott
fame?
going, fuck, it's Bob all over the place, even though there's no me there, but he'll recognize it. Yeah, I may even be up there occasionally. But it's like, I'm on HBO, but then I'm not there. I'll be including the Zappa modality and more. I'll be there, but I'll get on HBO and go, fuck you, and then shoot myself or shoot somebody and be arrested. You know, to pull an O.J. Simpson. You know, that'll be how you use that level. Sid Vicious, 1977, shoots the audience, right?
Yeah.
I did it my way. But the point is...
That sounds like old. You have to
there
come
ain't
up with
gonna
something new and
Right,
refreshing.
that's the point. There ain't going to be any mass media in 1998.
What's it going to be?
Well, that's what we're waiting to see unfold, right?
You don't know?
Oh, I know, but it's very hard. You know, all this taping you're doing last 5 years or whatever will in 20 years, you'll see, oh yeah, that's what was going to, Bob was predicting it all along. That's the point. But you can't see that yet.
Yeah.
See, everything I say is a scientific fucking principle or a law or something. I don't say falsehoods, I say truth. You know, I mean, whatever.
But they're not theories.
No, they're perfect pitch. It's language with perfect tone.
You're working with the 5 Platonic archetypes?
Yeah, and more, and more. The one and the many have merged, you know, in that sense. So what I'm saying makes perfect sense in retrospect. But the point was it was being said at the time when nobody understood it. Because just think, when I spoke last night, I actually was someone who showed up and spoke a foreign language. But what was odd, it was in English, and they kind of half understood it. Very bizarre experience, but they didn't understand it because it was a foreign language. It was a strange manifestation. You know what I'm saying?
It was like dream time.
That's
totally.
right. It was fucking dream time.
What the fuck is he saying?
Yeah,
and he can keep saying it.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound really kooky.
Because it's in English.
It's back to the same line. I can understand what he's saying, but I know he's saying something.
That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Jerry's commentary adds credibility because people can
You mean
relate.
when he gets up?
No, because you were talking and then
Oh,
Jerry would say, "Well, Marshall McLuhan,
Yeah.
no," and the audience could glom on to Jerry, which gives
the human being.
Yeah, the human being.
Yeah, there's English. There's someone who can say this because he's been
yeah, if he.
It was
he
only
understands it, then there must be something going on.
Right, but there was only one time I did that, and then what I said was, and then I brought in the other panelists, even Igor knows that Barbie dolls have services and disservices. What a fucking line of shit. But it is,
Yeah,
he's going that has services because I can use it.
We showed we weren't egomaniacs because we included the rest of the panel.
Right.
We were dialogue. It might look like a monomania, but it was dialogue.
Yeah.
It was new music.
Because he had
that's
that
what
good answer when he did say,
He was there
said, "How
nodding
did you
agreement
say-"
with me.
Yeah.
They'd be watching him to see is he's reacting, and they'd see him smiling at me.
Yeah.
He must be saying something. There was it was more than verbal. There was body language going on that was part of the matching. You know what I mean? And they were all falling for the body language communication.
Because everybody, something I noticed real clearly, more and more, I'm noticing more and more clearly is how, if you have a group of people, what's that phrase, two or more gather in my name or whatever, you have 2 or 3 people and they begin to agree on something, the fourth person starts agreeing with them, and they all start agreeing with each other, and they create a little mini consensual reality.
Yeah.
And off by themselves, they might not think any of that stuff.
That's right. Well, they'll go home and go to bed, and they'll wake up and they'll phone and say, what the hell were we agreeing on yesterday? You know what I mean? Most people, they can't remember what it was. Or they kind of say, well, that doesn't have anything to do with today. And then they fragment again. Yeah. That's what happens.
But like David, that one kid, I've been trying to turn him on to Bob for two or 3 years, and he said, and he sat there right at Bob's feet.
And asked a question.
And he asked a question, and then he said, as it ended, when it came right up, he says, I know what you mean. And he still says, I don't know what he's saying, but I know what you mean.
It's worth
listening to.
Yeah. Now, this is what happened when I went on the air with Mike Dyer in '87. Everybody, the first initial shock in Toronto among the staff members of the radio station was, this guy, the station manager comes and he says, Mike, he says, Bob, you're funny, but Mike's funnier. And I said, that's right. Because they knew they couldn't emphasize me because it really was about me, but that fucked everything up, you know what I mean? So they had to emphasize Mike. So Mike perfectly bounced off me, and he was the Jerry. He was the guy who was playing along with it, and therefore people had to kind of say, oh, I guess this is real. You know what I mean?
Right, and he even did more like the Gracie Allen, Ed McMahon. He would say, Bob, don't bring up LaRouche so much.
He was ridiculous.
You only have, right.
He was the most. He never understood anything. He was the worst student of my stuff after being on the radio for 4 fucking years.
I'm not worse than
He's not interested in me at all. He's like Jerry. He won't do his fucking homework. He never did his fucking. Yet everybody thought he was great because he pulled it off.
He was a good straight man.
Yeah. So it's an irony. It's unbelievable. You can't explain it. You know what I mean? Even though I am explaining it now, and in retrospect, when it's irrelevant, you'll look back and look at the tapes. Yeah, Bob was explaining it. He lied. He said he couldn't explain it. He was explaining it. That's the funny point. But that's then. That's you looking back. At that point, when you're doing that, where will I be? You know what I mean? So that was a good discussion to get on tape, Jared.
Yeah, excellent.
I think we should stop because I don't want to. I got to get
up early tomorrow.
We got to get up early.
You live in this Venice area, right? Yeah. So you don't have to drive like you did last year, 20 miles or something.
Yeah.
So that.